Alright, so welcome back. So if you're just catching up with us right now, we basically what we've done to this point is to create the environment. So basically we created a new React application from Vite instead of create React app, and then from there we created the environment as in basically the navigation systems and the routes and an app bar so that we can navigate through the site, through the pages, and then each of the pages is going to be showing an array of array and sorry, let me make sure that I update and have it all updated here. Alright, so that it shows object of arrays, and then another page there's going to show the array of objects, another one's going to show the object of objects, and you can see it changing here, an array of arrays. And then we created a custom component, which didn't make a whole lot of sense yet at that, in the last video when we created it. I think it was last video, because it's kind of hard when you create something and then you don't build it and then start seeing it grow in the UI at the same time. That's typically how you want to do it. However, I decided not to do that because it would just expand, because that component is kind of the custom box component. This component here is kind of extensive, and if right now it looks small because it's already crunched down so that it uses this map and then it maps out everything. But if we were to build that without the database and just build it out as an example first, it would have taken maybe a couple of videos, maybe even 3 videos to create it all in pieces, and it would just extend this into longer, and it would take forever for us to get to the actual point of what we're trying to do, which is show how do we use different API structures depending on how it's been given to us. So I decided to just code that out on my own and go through all of that on my own, and then just basically come over here and just put it up there and just ask you to just trust me that this will work, and I will show it today in the next video that it does. Alright, so if you saw me on the last video creating this and you were thinking, well, like, how is it that I can tell that I need a box and then that I need another box, and then I realized that I needed all of these components in 3 different boxes afterwards. Obviously, I didn't automatically knew that it was going to be box. I started adding boxes as I was building, and realized that I needed more boxes, and then I realized later that I needed to add a little bit of margin and where this on click was gonna go and all of that stuff. But I saved you all of that trouble in your own life world. Whenever you developing something, it would take you some discovery time to build a UI, but we're basically cutting all that out today so that we can get to actual today, which is where we're really going to be doing something. Alright, so let's get to it. Okay, I put a marker here so all this blah 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 goes away. Alright, so we're going to start with the array of objects. Now, what do we have here in these array of objects right here in this array of objects page? So we have the React use state and use effect hooks coming in from React, because we're going to need it. Anytime you're dealing with a database, you have to have a state. You don't have to, but it's better if you use a state. You have a state and you have a use effect using that uses a load, on load or on page event, so that things happen on page load. And then we have the main function for the page, which inside I have already a state called state and a setter for set state for that state. And then inside there I have an asynchronous get data that will call my piece of data from this particular endpoint, and then save everything into a result, which I'm already console logging, and we're going to see the console log right here. It's showing 3 times because I've done 3 refreshes and things like that, but there you go. So there it is. And And then we're grabbing that and we're setting it inside the set. We're using the set state to set that result into the state called state. So at this point we have access to the state, and then here we're using the get that function here. We're doing that callback for that function inside the load, the page load event, so that it comes up. And now we're gonna get to use it here. All right, so let's get to it. So what else do we need? We're gonna need a little bit of UI, a little bit of a HTML here, or material UI, I should say. So the first thing that we're gonna need is going to be to change this right here. Lost myself. There it is. To something a little bit better than that, because that's a little crazy. So I'm going to right here create, and I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to take this and use regular empty parameters, empty brackets, so that I don't produce a div by accident. So this is called a fragment, basically. Alright, so for that I'm going to create a typography, and that typography, and just see what I have here. H4, I'm going to use an H2 for that one, an H2 variant. Component div is okay, and not component div. And then I'm going to create some styling here that I know I'm going to need, so I might as well just have it done already, and I'm going to pick it up from my notes and put it here. And that basically is just going to text align my page title, array of objects, in the center, and then give it a margin bottom of about 50 pixels, because so I don't want it to be too crunched up. I could probably cut that down to like about 30 actually. Alright, and then that's going to change it into array of objects. Now I have a thing here because I have to import it, so no worries. I come over here and I just type it, and there it is from MUI. Then I can just delete it there. Just gonna bring it here. I like to have my useState and React calls and stuff like that at the very top. It doesn't really matter because things that import don't really import in order, but I just do. I just like it up there. All right, now inside that, basically, if I just hit center, enter, I have the title up there. So that's just the title, and then down here is where we're going to create a component that is going to map through the data and feed it to my custom box component, custom component that we created here with these two data props. So because that's going to be in a section, in its own section, I'm going to use a box for it. All right, and that box is going to have, it's going to be a flex box, and I could just basically and let me just take this out. I could basically simplify this process, since all of the boxes I'm using are going to be flex, and just add it to the CSS, and I don't have to just keep repeating myself on that point. But again, that's not the point of this video. Alright, so notice that the Copilot is already asking me if I want to map the state. The Copilot is being a smart thing. It's an AI thing, so it knows that I made a phone call, that I made a GET request to that AI, to that endpoint up there, and that I have a state called state. So it kind of knows that that's what I'm doing. So you know what? I'm just gonna take his advice, because I will be using that, and I'm going to make sure I close that and close that, close that. Yeah, make sure I close all of the things there. And for this, I'm going to use different names here and different nomenclature, only because normally item will be fine. It doesn't really matter what you use. Okay, these are just basically placeholders, if you will. They could be anything you want. It could be this, but that's going to be hard to remember later. So you want to be something meaningful. So in this case, I put S because it's basically for this list of states, or for the state API. And for as many pieces of state that it finds, I wanted to create one instance of each state, and so I'm just going to use S as states. Make sure that I add the box to the material here, so that I can inject it in. And now in here I am going to start mapping a return. I'm going to have a return for my custom box. Now is where I can bring my custom box. Now I'm gonna left or right. Yeah, I don't know what the thing is trying to tell me there. All right. Yep. I'm gonna close it for now. Now I can't really call the custom box directly. Okay. And the reason why is because I need to add an index to it. Every time, this index right here, every time you do a map, you have to index. You have to put a key on your map. So instead, I am going to bring yet another box, and I'm gonna add the key index. That's a lot of stuff. I'm just gonna add key index to that. Yeah, I don't need all that stuff, just a key. And I'm gonna make sure I bring that up here. Now I am getting an error there because the custom box is not being injected in or imported, so I'm just gonna type custom box, and there it is. Just gonna make sure that I put it in there, take that off. Alright, cool. So now I have my custom box here, and if I hit enter or save, you notice that everything went away. The reason why is because the custom box has two props that you have to, two values. The custom box by himself, it doesn't have anything. Now if I wanted to bring in the custom box without having to call anything, then I would need to add default props. And default props basically adds a default value to data and to side, so that when I call it, I don't always have to call it and then define define which data on which side. It will automatically just pick a default one. But in this case, we don't really have a default one, because the way that you call the data is going to depend on which kind of structure, API structure you're gonna call. Sometimes you're gonna call the main top row of the main top array, or the main top object, or the object dot array, and things like that. But so we're going to have to define these in there. So now we're gonna go ahead and here, and we're gonna need two props. One is gonna be data. I'm gonna put it like that, and then the other one is gonna be side. And now, how do we know where and what do we need from in there? So let's go to, and this is going to be showing errors, obviously, because you can see that it's not showing anything back there, so it's because it's not, whatever, there's an error. So that's fine, that will go away. So here we have the two pieces of state that is going to prop. One is going to say side, one is going to be side, and the other one is going to be data. So to map into these right here, the main state is what you get up here. That's basically S. That's S. Okay, S and S. And then which one is going to be feeding into the side? Well, it's called side. So I'm gonna name that side. And then which one is going to be, what's the name of the one that is going to be feeding into the data? Is called data. And I'm gonna call that S dot data. All right, and if I recall correctly, this is basically the end of it. And then I hit enter, and when I hit enter, you can see that it is now showing up. So these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. You can go as far as putting here, where is that custom box, where is the side? This right here, component variant side. So here you can just you can put text, what is it, text transform, text transform and capitalize. There you go. Now you have good guys and bad guys, and then if I click on each one of these, this is why this click event that toggles the leaders works. I can see the USA leaders, Eisenhower, MacArthur, Roosevelt. I can see the Great Britain ones, I can see the French ones, I can come to the Germany side, I can see their leaders, the Italian ones and the Japanese ones. And I can just come back and toggle through all of these, turn it off, turn it off. All right, cool. So in recap of how do we break down this data here, how do we know that what we need to map is whenever you have an array, you automatically can map through that array. Okay, so that's the first thing that you do whenever you get a piece of data. First thing you got to look at is what is the main top object that you're getting. Is it an object or is it an array? If it's an array, then you're good, because now you know that the first thing that you can do, let me close this and let me go to this. The first thing you can do is you can automatically, once you call it and you send it to a state, you know that what's in your state is going to be an array. So you can map automatically straight to it. You can automatically map to it, and you have access to the first initial children. So your children are going to be this one and this one. So you know for a fact, as soon as you have an array as your parent, your main parent, you know that as soon as you get that in your database, you get that from your database, from your API, you can go ahead and map that, and then you're gonna get two objects back, right? Now inside it, you get to make a decision on what objects you're going to use, and you can have a lot of them. In this case, I have two objects, side and another array in there. Great, because I can grab that array also and map it further, which I am, right? And that's what I'm doing here at the very beginning right here. I'm grabbing that piece of data right there, and I'm mapping further from there to see the leaders and all that stuff. All right, so no, to see the flags, and then from in there, what is it, custom box, to see the flags, and then from in there I am going even further to see the leaders, and that's because inside there is going to be another array right here that is going to be giving me the leaders, and this array has objects. So this is an array of objects, this is an array of objects, and then this is an array of objects. So when you have an array of objects, it's always super easy, because the array can be mapped out right away, and then every children will be an object to it, and that you call that by calling whatever it is that you decided to call here, dot the name of the children, and then you'll get the information right away. All right, so this is the easiest one, and most likely the one that you're gonna be using the most. All right, so I'm gonna stop this one right here, and then we're gonna move on to maybe object arrays, which is a little bit backwards from this one. All right, see you in the next one, guys.